we will continue revising the chapters in today's session which are included for your summative assessment. You all know the chapters which are included from the chemistry part for your summative assessment. Chemical reactions and types, acids, bases and salts, and periodic classification of elements. These three lessons are included in chemistry part. Okay, and then we have been revising the chapters for the past two sessions, and we have revised multiple choice questions based on these three lessons. We have done assertion and reasoning type of questions based on these three lessons, give reason type of questions, and we have solved balancing the chemical equations also. So in today's session I have come up with few important questions. Some are given with answers, some are given without answers. So those questions which are not given with the answers have been revised in the revision slides of that particular lesson. Okay, or in other words, you can refer your textbooks and you will get the answer for such questions. Okay, now see, the first question here is, what happens when quicklime is added to water? Quicklime is what? Calcium oxide. So when calcium oxide combines with water, it forms calcium hydroxide and it releases heat. Whenever heat is evolved, we call it as an exothermic reaction. So when quicklime is added to water, calcium hydroxide is formed, and this produces a hissing sound and it releases a lot of heat. Next question. Differentiate between corrosion and rancidity. See, you all know what is meant by corrosion. Metals like iron, copper, silver and all, when they are exposed to atmospheric substances like moisture and all, what happens? They lose their color, right? Iron, when exposed to oxygen in the atmosphere, it forms iron oxide. It undergoes oxidation. Silver articles lose their shine, black color dots are formed on them, and on copper articles green color dots are formed. These are all examples for corrosion. So how will you differentiate between corrosion and rancidity? So what is corrosion? Corrosion is when a metal is attacked by substances around it such as moisture, acids, etc. It is said to get corroded, and this process is known as corrosion. You can write your own answers also. So silver articles become black and copper articles become green on the surface due to corrosion. Corrosion causes damage to the body of a car, bridges, iron railing, ships, etc. You must have noticed this in your day-to-day life also. Okay, rancidity, it's mainly oxidization of food substances. That's why you have learnt that in order to prevent the chips from becoming rancid, means what? They lose their crispiness. It undergoes oxidation. They are flushed. The packets in which the chips are packed are flushed with nitrogen gas. This we have revised several times. Okay, so when fats and oils are oxidized, their smell and taste changes. We can say that they have become rancid. This phenomenon is what is called as rancidity. Antioxidants are added to food containing oils and fats and oils to prevent rancidity. See, this is antioxidants are added to food containing oils and the food that contains fats as well as oils. Fats means it refers to other fatty substances other than oil also. Clear? So when you are asked to differentiate between rancidity and corrosion, you can write what do you mean by corrosion, what do you mean by rancidity. It should go hand in hand. Similarly, how to prevent corrosion? Galvanizing, by painting them. Similarly, how to prevent the food substances from becoming rancid? By adding antioxidants, by packing them in airtight containers, by flushing the packets in which these items like chips are to be packed with nitrogen gas. Like that, you have to write points hand in hand. Okay, now next question. See, this is a very important question. Hydrogen being an inflammable gas and oxygen being supporter of combustion, yet water, which is a compound made up of oxygen and hydrogen, is used for extinguishing fire. Why? What should be the reason for this? Because whenever a chemical reaction takes place, the substances, the reactants that are involved in the chemical reaction loses their property, and the product formed is totally of a new property which is not seen in the parent elements, right? So that is why The properties of the compound water formed are different from the properties of its constituent elements, that is hydrogen and oxygen. That is why water is used for extinguishing fire, even though hydrogen is being inflammable and oxygen being a supporter of combustion. Okay, now see, silver does not evolve hydrogen on reacting with dilute H2SO4. What's the reason? Silver does not evolve hydrogen on reacting with dilute H2SO4. You have learned, no? The reaction of acids with metals, they liberate hydrogen gas. But when it happens with silver, when silver reacts with acid, it does not revolve hydrogen because silver is less reactive than hydrogen. Normally in a displacement reaction, a more reactive element displaces a less reactive element. So here it is the other way around. Okay, now see, look at this question. The electronic configuration of element M is 2, 8, 4. Identify the group in which the element M is placed in the modern periodic table. Also state the nature of the element M. What property do all elements in the same column of the periodic table as fluorine have in common? See the number of questions here. They have not asked you about any reaction or anything else about the property, or they have asked you the nature, which is a physical property of that particular element. See the question again. The electronic configuration of element M is 284. So atomic number is 14. So what should be the element M? It is silicon. Yes. Identify the group in which the element M is placed in the modern periodic table. It is placed in group number 14, right? State the nature of the element M. What type of element is that M? Is it a metal, non-metal, or a metalloid? Silicon is a metalloid, right? What property? This is over with this 284. Now, the other part of the question, what property do all elements in the same column of the periodic table as fluorine have in common? So, as I told you, the electronic configuration of element M is given as 284. Therefore, the atomic number is 14. The element M is silicon. It belongs to group number 14 and it is a metalloid. And all elements in the same column of the periodic table as fluorine have in common 3 electrons in their valence shell. That means their outermost shell. All the other elements like fluorine, this fluorine like other elements that resembles this, belonging to this particular series, have 3 electrons in their valence shell and they all belong to group number 13. Please make a note of such type of questions. Okay. Now, here I have given certain important questions which you should be thorough of, and I'm sure all the answers to these questions were discussed in the earlier sessions when I was doing the revision for this particular lesson, that is periodic classification of elements. Did Daubernia's triads also exist in the columns of Newland's octaves? Compare and find out. Yes, this set was already found in Newland's table also, that is lithium, potassium and sodium. They were also found in the column of Newland's octaves. And then next question is, what were the limitations of Daubernia's classification? This is a common one. See, they were not applicable for very low mass or very high mass elements, and all the elements that were available during his time could not fit into the Daubernia triads. These are the reasons or limitations that you could write. Then what were the limitations of Newland's law of octaves? Yes, after calcium he could not arrange the elements according to his rule, and then he did not expect that there would be more elements apart from the 56 elements that were available during his time, and he did not think about that. These things you can give as a reason there. So I've already discussed these answers. I've given in the previous revision videos the answers also. Please make a note of it and study those questions carefully. Besides gallium, which other elements have since been discovered that were left by Mendeleev in his periodic table, scandium and germanium. Okay, then why do you think the noble gases are placed separately? Because of their inert nature, because of their less availability in the atmosphere. All those things can be given as a reason here. Okay. See the next question. How could the modern periodic table remove various anomalies of Mendeleev's periodic table? See, this is a very common question which repeatedly comes in the board papers also. See, Mendeleev had arranged the elements in the increasing order of its atomic mass, but the modern periodic table, since the elements were arranged in the increasing order of their atomic numbers, most of the anomalies that were found in Mendeleev's periodic table were overcome. Hydrogen, though being gaseous in nature, it was given the first position. No, in that case, hydrogen has atomic number 1. In that case, it is given the first position. And then uh, isotopes. See, isotopes are not given separate places. Here in modern periodic table, not necessary, because modern periodic table, the elements are arranged in the increasing order of their atomic numbers. So isotopes are atoms of elements having same atomic number but different atomic mass number. In that case, they need not be given a separate position in the modern periodic table. Then the anomaly regarding cobalt and nickel, when arranged according to their atomic mass, the places were not given properly. But when it was in the increasing order of their atomic number, cobalt is having atomic number 27 and nickel is having atomic number 28. So in that case, they were given the proper position. So these reasons you can write. Then three elements having a single electron in their outermost shell: lithium, sodium, potassium. Okay. Then two elements that have two electrons in their outermost shell: magnesium, calcium. Three elements with filled outermost shell. So you can go for neon, argon, xenon. Okay. So I'm just giving you a recap of what we have done earlier, but please ensure that you read your textbook thoroughly and you develop the potential in yourself to answer such type of questions. These are just, I'm just discussing the questions, here. I'm not giving the full explanation because it was done earlier. Many times we have done this. So I want you all to make a note of these questions and learn it thoroughly. Instead of rote learning, better read your textbook again and again. Okay? Then now look at this question. Nitrogen, whose atomic number is 7, and phosphorus, whose atomic number is 15, belong to group 15 of the periodic table. Write the electronic configuration of these two elements and which of these will be more electronegative and why. See here. Atomic number of nitrogen is 7, means its electronic configuration is going to be 2, 5. And phosphorus, its atomic number is 15, therefore its electronic configuration will be 2, 8, 5. And we all know that they belong to group number 15, both of them. So among these two, which one will be more electronegative? Obviously nitrogen. Why? Because nitrogen is smaller in size when compared to phosphorus. Okay. Since this nitrogen is having a smaller size, its nucleus will exert a greater force on the electrons. So that is why we say nitrogen is more electronegative when compared to phosphorus. I'll repeat again. Nitrogen has electronic configuration 2, 5 and phosphorus has electronic configuration 2, 8, 5. Both are having 5 electrons in their outermost shell. But when you come down the group, nitrogen is above phosphorus, right? So nitrogen is having only 2 shells. Phosphorus is having 3 shells. So comparatively, nitrogen is smaller in size. Due to this smaller size, what will happen? The nucleus will exert a greater force on the electrons. So that is why we say that nitrogen is more electronegative when compared to phosphorus. Okay. Now next question. Why should curd and sour substances not be kept in brass and copper vessels? Okay. So you all know this curd and sour substances are acidic in nature. So when they are kept in copper vessels, copper is a metal, it will undergo some reaction. Brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. Obviously, it will also undergo some reaction. That is why you should not keep these substances which are acidic in nature in vessels which are made of metals or alloys. Okay. Now, why do HCl and HNO3, that is hydrochloric acid and nitric acid, show acidic characters in aqueous solutions, while solutions of compounds like alcohol and glucose do not show acidic character. See, we have learnt already. These compounds like hydrochloric acid and nitric acid dissociate in aqueous solution, which results in the production of hydrogen ions. That means what? Hydrogen ions separate out. Whereas the compounds like alcohol and glucose, though they contain hydrogen ions, they do not separate out these hydrogen ions when they are in aqueous solution, like how the acids do. That is why we say this hydrochloric acid and nitric acid show acidic characters in aqueous solutions, while compounds like alcohol and glucose do not show acidic character, because acids in aqueous solution will produce hydrogen ions, whereas glucose and alcohol, though they contain hydrogen ions, will not separate out these hydrogen ions in aqueous solution. That is the reason we say this HCl and HNO3 show acidic characters in aqueous solution. Next, why does dry HCl gas not change the color of the dry litmus paper? See, acids will show their acidic behavior only if either the gas is moist or if the litmus paper is moist. Here both are dry, therefore it will not show its acidic character. That is the reason that dry HCl gas will not change the color of dry litmus paper. Okay. While diluting an acid, why is it recommended that the acid should be added to water and not water to the acid? This is because when you're diluting an acid, means it is already concentrated, right? If you add water to the acid, it may release a large amount of heat, which may cause some burns on your faces, or it might lead to some injuries. Okay, in order to prevent that, it is always recommended that you should add acid to the water and not water to the acid. Okay, next, why does distilled water not conduct electricity whereas rainwater does? Because distilled water is free of ions. Only when there are presence of ions it will conduct electricity. Distilled water does not conduct because it does not have any ions in it. Next, plaster of Paris should be stored in a moisture proof container. Explain why. See, if plaster of Paris is exposed to moisture, what will happen? The time that it takes for the setting of plaster will take a longer period because of the hydration, because of water particles present in it, and this will affect the quality of plaster of Paris, and then it will become useless. Okay, that is the reason that it should be stored in a moisture proof container. Name the substance which on treatment with chlorine yields bleaching powder. Calcium hydroxide. Okay, so these are all few sample questions. Okay, so you have to read your textbook thoroughly in order to answer any type of question. This is just a sample to you. We have done enough revision of all the chapters, so please read thoroughly all the chapters that are there for your exam, and all the best. Do well. Have a good day.